Good evening, you're watching the main news on HKIBC. I'm Joanna Ho. Here's a look at tonight's top stories. Dozens of people reportedly fell into the sea while out kayaking today. The city's financial secretary predicts second worst deficit ever. And international leaders flock to London ahead of the Queen's funeral tomorrow. Finance Chief Paul Chan says Hong Kong may see its second worst deficit ever as the city's economic woes continue with the pandemic. This means the government may see a further dip in financial reserves. Taking to his weekly blog again, Financial Secretary Paul Chan had a stark warning about the city's economy. He expects the budget deficit for the 2022-2023 fiscal year to exceed $100 billion. That's almost double the $56.3 billion estimated earlier this year. It would also be the second worst deficit in history after 2020's record of $232.5 billion. According to Chan, this could lead to government coffers dipping further to around $800 billion. He added things could be even worse if not for the $35 billion from the government's green bonds to be issued later this year. As local and global economies continue to take beatings from the pandemic and tightened monetary policies of central banks, the government expects a drop in revenue from profits and salaries taxes due to weak performance in consumption, investment, and exports. The minister is also anticipating smaller gains from stamp duties and land sales due to the subdued stock and property markets. However, he did shed some positivity. Retail sales saw an upswing in July compared with last year, and the city's employment situation has also improved, according to Chan. Ahead of this week's release of latest unemployment numbers, he revealed Hong Kong's joblessness has dropped, but gave no further details. Paul Chan also insisted the government's rent deferral scheme, launched earlier this year, has been effective, adding that it prevented mass shutdowns of small and medium-sized enterprises following the height of the fifth wave. Still, he pledged to review current financial aids for businesses. Some have blamed the recent closure of bakery chain Crostini on this scheme, sparking fears of more shutdowns in the restaurant sector within the coming months. Police received a flood of calls about people falling into the sea today. Many had been out canoeing and kayaking when the weather got ugly. In one of the more serious cases, officers heard that two people who fell into the water had become unconscious. They were sent to Sai Kung, then transferred to Cheung Kwan O Hospital for treatment. The duo were part of a 9-person canoeing group near Pak Sha Chau, which also included 2 children who were reported as safe. According to the observatory, an intense gust exceeding 70 kilometers per hour was recorded in Sai Kung at around 4 p.m. Health experts and lawmakers are continuing to push for quarantine-free entry into the city. There are also suggestions to cancel pre-boarding test requirements for flights heading to Hong Kong. Macy Mock reports.
On radio today, commercial sector lawmaker Jeffrey Lam said the so-called 0+7 quarantine measure, or even a 0+3 policy, should be launched as soon as possible. His urge comes a day after Secretary for Health Lo Chong-mao said the government was actively considering the elimination of hotel quarantine for incoming travelers to be replaced with 7 days of home surveillance. Lam is concerned more international events would be cancelled after Hong Kong lost its chance to host the World Dragon Boat Racing Championship to Thailand, with organizers citing the city's strict COVID rules for the move. He fears waiting till early next year or even later this year would be too late. Apart from quarantine, Lam also urged authorities to scrap the PCR testing requirement for people boarding planes bound for Hong Kong. He said this rule has been highly inconvenient for business travelers, especially those from the UK where PCR testing is not readily available. The suggestion was also backed by government pandemic advisor David Ho, who said imported cases are already vetted by tests at the airport as visitors arrive. Ho said the government can push forward with the 0+7 strategy if infection numbers drop in the coming 2 weeks, giving the local healthcare system room to cope. Ho also suggested the government can offer consumption vouchers as incentive to boost the vaccination rates of the elderly and children. Maisie Mock, HKIBC.
Health officials believe Hong Kong has now passed its post-mid-autumn COVID surge, but numbers will continue to fluctuate slightly from day to day. Hong Kong recorded 7,322 new COVID infections today, 132 of which were imported. The death toll also rose by 23, involving patients aged 58 to 94. Health authorities say numbers have stabilized for now without signs of rebounding. They believe most of the long weekend infections have already been reflected in today's cases. Albert Au from the Center for Health Protection said authorities are still discussing when and how to ease quarantine measures for incomers, but they do want to connect with the rest of the world as soon as possible. Elsewhere, Taiwan was struck by another 6.8 magnitude earthquake just 1 day after a 6.4 earthquake last night. The island barely had time to recover from yesterday when it was hit again in Taitung County this afternoon. Yesterday's quake was also in the same county. Hualien saw massive destruction, including a collapsed 3-story building. A train at Dongli Station was also derailed after it was hit by a fallen canopy. Locally, there were more than 10 reports from people saying they felt minor shaking for a few seconds. Dignitaries from around the world are pouring into London ahead of Queen Elizabeth II's funeral tomorrow. Massive queues remain outside Westminster Hall as the British public wait more than 10 hours to see her coffin for the last day, Winna Wong reports.
People standing in line to see the Queen got a pleasant surprise yesterday. King Charles III and his son, Prince William, got up close and personal with the crowd. Many had been waiting for 12 hours or even longer in the chilly weather to say their last goodbyes.
The surprising thing was the silence. So outside there was a bit of a buzz and everybody was chatting, and then the silence as you walk in is quite amazing, really.
Earlier, William led his brother and 6 cousins to stand vigil beside her coffin. Prince Harry was seen in his military uniform, reportedly at his father's request for the first time since 2020, when he relinquished his title as a senior member of the royal family. Today is the last full day the Queen will lie in rest at Westminster Hall. Tomorrow she will be moved to Westminster Abbey for her royal funeral, and people have already started camping out to secure a front row spot for when her gun carriage passes by. The British capital is on high security alert as more international leaders arrive for tomorrow's event. U.S. President Joe Biden's motorcade was spotted zooming through the city after he reached Britain. Emperor Naruhito and Empress Masako of Japan also made their landing early this morning. The 2,000-person guest list features representatives from across the world, from royalties to national leaders and even celebrities like David Attenborough and Canadian-American actress Sandra Oh. Ukraine's President Volodymyr Zelensky and wife Olena are also set to be in attendance, while Beijing has confirmed Vice President Wang Qishan will be China's representative. Dignitaries from Russia and Belarus, however, were excluded. Won Wang, HKIBC.
Millions were told to evacuate as the powerful Typhoon NonModel approached southwestern Japan. The southern island of Kyushu was met with heavy rainfall and strong winds this morning, and high waves were seen in cities like Kagoshima and Miyazaki. Over 4 million people in Kyushu were ordered to head to safe places. More than 500 flights of Japan Airways and Nippon Airways were cancelled for the day. NonModel is forecasted to reach Japan's metropolis Tokyo on Tuesday. Back in Hong Kong, police seized over 900 kilograms of cannabis buds in a recent operation, their largest amount ever. They say as more countries legalize the drug, local authorities will be seeing more marijuana busts. Janice Low reports.
Last Friday, police seized over $100 million worth of illicit drugs from 3 industrial buildings in Tuen Mun and Sanpo Kong. It includes at least 900 kilograms of cannabis buds and 1 kilogram of ice, also known as crystal meth. They were discovered in storage units believed to be controlled by triad groups. Some of them were disguised as packs of tea leaves. Officers say smugglers likely hid the cannabis buds in construction materials when they were shipped from North America. 2 men aged 28 and 41 were arrested and charged with drug trafficking. Police already took away at least 200 kilograms of cannabis this year, but this bust marks a record amount of cannabis buds seized in a single case. Officers say the rise in marijuana-related crimes is due to 2 main reasons.
We see that this is a trend since the legalization of cannabis in some overseas country. Another reason is that from a demand side, we see that cannabis has become one of the popular culture, which is wrong among the youth. And that's explained why in quite a number of entertainment premises and in the youth culture, they have been promoting the use of cannabis.
Over 260 people aged under 21 were arrested for drug offenses in the first 7 months of this year, half of which were related to cannabis. Officers again reminded Hong Kongers, especially adolescents, that the possession, use, and trafficking of cannabis are criminal offenses. Janice Low, HKIBC.
A unionist lawmaker believes that the amendment of a job safety bill which raises the maximum penalty for violators can be passed within this year. Currently, employers who violate the Occupational Safety and Health Ordinance will face a maximum penalty of $500,000 and a year in prison. The government has proposed raising them to $10 million and 2 years in jail. Labor lawmaker Kwok Wai-Ki expressed confidence in passing the bill before the end of the year. The Association for the Rights of Industrial Accident Victims also wants the bill to be passed as soon as possible and called on the government to assist injured staff in returning to work after recovery. On to the weather now, mainly cloudy with a few showers and squally thunderstorms tomorrow. Temperatures will range between 28 and 34 degrees. Bring your umbrellas and expect sunny intervals with a few showers as we head into midweek. Now let's take a look at the weather around the world. That's our main news for Sunday night. Join us for more news at 11. I'm Joanna Ho. Thanks for watching. Good night.